Hello, everyone.
Hi everyone and welcome back to another YouTube video, Sisterly Conversations. And today our topic is, or tonight actually, our topic is what should I do if someone gets into an accident? So basically, the way we're gonna tackle this question is that I will ask Tony some questions and she will respond, give her response. So to start off, what should you do if you notice a vehicular accident?
So, the first thing you should do when you see a vehicular accident is call for help. Call 911. In Barbados, it will be 211. Um, and then, if you wish to, I won't advise it, but if you wish to, you can take a peek and see if the person is breathing or moving or whatever. But the quickest thing for you to do is to call 911 and go from there. And they would be able to tell ambulance and whoever else to come.
Okay, I feel like I should have probably started off this video with a little introduction in terms of the fact that we chose this question because we found there are a lot of accidents, especially happening in Barbados. Not so much here in Canada, but home, especially back home in Barbados, we find that a lot of people were getting into car accidents, and I think that it's pretty important to know what to do in a case. Usually, most people walk away unharmed, and um, and it usually is okay. But um, but for the most part, just in case you see an accident where somebody is pretty hurt, um, we thought that it would be important to do this video. Tony just said just now that you should call 911 or 211. Also, another thing, because I saw somebody was discussing it back home again in Barbados, um, that 211 is also the police, no?
Yeah.
Right. So, in case of an accident, you will call the ambulance, which is 511.
Yeah.
But I've heard people say back home in Barbados um, that the ambulance can take really long to come, and they actually talked about calling the fire station as well, because the firefighters actually get there pretty fast considering the number of them that are in the country. But then they also talk about the fact that they are also CPR and first aid trained. So even if the ambulance don't get to you first, they can also get to you before before them, and can also help you. It might be able to save a life. So also, Twan also just said just now that she prefer you not to help. I'm the opposite. If you can help, I feel like if you are a CPR, which I also find a lot of people back home in Barbados aren't CPR first aid trained. But if you are CPR first aid trained and you can help, then I would say to help. But if you feel uncomfortable helping and you feel like you're gonna mess up or something, then of course you can always call the emergency number.
But I just want to say the reason why I said I would suggest not to help too is because sometimes what may happen is that you're trying to do good but end up doing harm. So the best for me, especially in my career, we were taught in school, if there's an accident, don't go, because we can be held liable
Right.
for any injuries that could occur or whatever. So
Right.
that's why.
But I also know that there's something called
Good
there's something called the
Samaritan.
Good Samaritan law, where if a person, which we will move on to unconscious, if a person is conscious and you ask them if they want to be helped and they said no, then you obviously will not help, because then you could be held liable. But if they say yes, they want your help, then yes, you can help them. But also, if a person is unconscious, you are protected under the Good Samaritan law to be able to help someone and not be sued for it. So that's just a by the way as well. So the next question is, how can I apply first aid to someone who is injured?
Well, the first, what I would say is, again, try not to touch. No, the reason, this is another reason why too. You don't know if the person would have hit their head or whatever. Um, and sometimes what might happen is that you touch the person or you move the person, and then like the spine could get injured. So you could get like a spinal cord injury. So that's why people, especially when you see like a big smash up, if it's a small little accident, you might see the person is walking and moving around, whatever. Then you could ask them, well, can I help you? And then you would then do your first aid, like do a little bandage here, or just be there for the person too, because that's also a form of first aid as well, emotional support. But when you see like a big smash up, do not touch the person. Don't move them, don't do nothing. Just look and just hope that the ambulance or the police come quickly. Because many times persons become paralyzed due to being moved in an accident. And it might look like it might seem like you don't have a heart. It is that you do have a heart, but at the same time you don't want to injure the person who was in the accident. So that's for the person who was in a really bad smash up. If it is that the person have small injuries or whatever, then as I said, you would ask them, well, can I help you? And based on the injury, you will gotta put on your gloves and stuff, because you also have to protect yourself. And then you just
But what happens if you don't have gloves?
well, if you don't have gloves, don't touch them, because you don't know what nobody have. You have to also protect yourself, right?
Okay. So, next question. What should I do if the person is unconscious?
If the person is unconscious, do not touch them, call 911.
I mean, I am starting to feel a little bit on the disagreement side, because my thing is, if you have the opportunity, I understand with the spinal cord, having a spine,
Spinal cord injury.
yeah, an injury and making it worse. I understand all of that, but I still feel like it's better to have maybe a spine injury than to die. I feel like it's better for you to save a life, because if a person is unconscious from an accident, more than likely this person wants to live. I don't feel like if you just say call them not when they want one. Okay, for example, how I said in Barbados, the ambulance sometimes takes, like based on what I was watching on a video, the ambulance sometimes takes 15, sometimes 30 minutes to get to the destination. As I said, the person said to call the fire. They would prefer to call the fire because they are more likely to get there sooner. But in a case where somebody's unconscious and you are first aid or CPR trained, and you're protected by the Good Samaritan law, you're just and they're just there and you can do something about it. I personally feel like you should try to do something about it. So, okay, in a case where people actually want to help, because you keep saying don't do anything about it, but in a case where persons actually want to help, what would you do if the person is unconscious?
Well, the first thing I will have to ask is if the person has a medical background. Like, if it's a doctor, like sometimes people may ask, is there a doctor close by or whatever that can come and help? But at the end of the day, if you want to help somebody, sometimes the best way to help somebody is to try and look for help. Because let's face it, you don't have a medical background. Shanita said something earlier that I truly have to disagree with, because with a spinal cord injury, you can die. The spinal cord has nerves that deal with respiration. Therefore, if you trouble that particular, if something cracks in between there, the person could automatically die just like that. So, my point is, look for help as fast as you can. I do not believe that if you are not a medical person or whatever, or you don't know what you're doing, do not go around that person. Call for help. It's always a necessity to call for help, no matter how much you wanna do good for the person. I'm telling you, majority of the times you have people that try to do good that end up getting harmed, and then they get lawsuits and all kind of thing. So that's just
But
me.
again, but again, this is in the case where someone is unconscious and therefore they can't speak back to you, and they don't have, let's say they don't have a family member or a friend or whoever around them that can say, okay, don't do this or do this. This is someone that's unconscious. And someone, let's say a stand or buddy, who has CPR first aid training wants to help out, or let's say someone who's interested in getting CPR first aid training or whatever, what would the person be able to do in a case like that?
Call for help.
So
Call for help.
So you are not going to you're not gonna say that the person can perform CPR?
No.
Okay.
In order to do CPR, you have to, first of all, you gotta cut open the person, shirt, whatever. You have to try, you know, if the body head flat, if the body head, let me see, body head prop up in a chair or whatever, you still gotta move that object from under the body head. The body head goes flat down, and then we're gonna happen spinal cord injury.
Okay, let's move on. Nurse, see the difference. Let's move on. Okay, so I guess then my next question was, what should you do if the unconscious person is bleeding heavily? But I guess then you would say call 911.
No, for that part, no, because if it's like a hand, again, you saying the unconscious person. If it's the unconscious person and the body is bleeding out, the most you can do is try to tie the hand. So like get a shirt, get a lacer, get a belt, get something to tie off the body hand or the body foot or wherever the blood supply is coming, the gush of blood coming from, you could actually tie that. But what I'm saying is, in terms of CPR, okay, in terms of CPR, you have to be careful with those kind of things. You have to be careful. But if it's somebody bleeding, you can tie the foot. You can tie the hand. You're not going to be messing with the head. If it's your extremities, you call these extremities upper, and your feet and your legs is your lower extremity. If there's bleeding in those areas, you apply pressure. If the person has like bleeding, let me say to the chest or whatever, again, it has to be your choice. You could apply pressure to the wound area or whatever. But as it relates to any kind of movements, especially this movement, do not touch the person. The person's at risk for a spinal cord injury. I rest my case.
Okay, well, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. I think the key point here that we took away from this segment is to call 911, call 211, 511, whatever
1-1.
the emergency numbers are in your country, you will call them. So thank you. And
please let us know if you are in agreement with Shanita or you're in agreement with me as to how to help somebody who is, in a car wreck or a car accident or whatever. So please let us know. Please like, share, and
subscribe.
Until next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.